Hey boys and girls, it's Ken from Vanderwan Gardens, and I'm here to talk about a new little project I got. So some of you might remember I've got a fish tank in my basement, and the fish tank has got pumps that run 24/7, and it also has a heater that wants to run 24/7, or at least the fish want it to run 24/7. And I'm like, this thing's got to be taking a lot of power. So every winter, my electric bills go through the roof, and I think it's because of a couple of things. But I say, you know what? I also have an RV that has a lead acid battery that's about to die, and it's about 5 years old. So I got to replace it. So I'm going to use the camper in the summer, but I need extra power in the winter. What if I was able to build a system that could move around from one to the other? So I guess the heart of the thing that we want to worry about is this battery. My lead acid battery was about 100 amp hours, but the way that lead acids work is you can only really use half of its capacity because lead acid batteries don't like to be discharged past 50%. So the great thing about a LIFEPO lithium iron phosphate, so lithium iron phosphate, the great thing about those is that they can be used nearly almost all the way down to zero, and they can come back and be charged up. So how do we charge this thing? Well, the camper has a charge controller that can't bring this up to 100%, but it can bring it up to 80%. And what the charge controller in the camper can't do is it can't balance all of these cells or allow it to balance all of these cells. But you know what can? This little guy here. This solar power controller is really, I have 3 of these now. It does up to 30 amps. So you can connect this guy to a bunch of solar panels, and the power comes in here, the power comes out there, and this guy can be programmed to top this off the rest of the way using solar power. The great thing about my camper is I only use it one weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then I come back and I park it. So I've got another solar panel out there that's topping off my other battery. So what'll happen is, these solar cells are going to be able to charge this battery up over the course of the weekdays, be ready for the weekend if we choose to go boondocking. So, how do we get the power from this battery to operate normal good stuff? Well, this is the Bell 2000 watt DC to AC pure sine wave inverter. All this stuff was bought off of Amazon. So, input is DC 12 volts. Comes out these AC outlets. And then this cute little display will tell us how it's all working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a place downstairs near the fish tank for all of this stuff to live. Obviously, these guys are going to be outside on kind of a temporary framework on the south side of the house. So it goes from these plugs. Somebody out there probably knows what they're called. That plug goes to this wire. That wire goes to here. That goes to here via this little tiny wire. It's going to go from outside to inside using this cable entry. At first I was like, how does this thing screw into the house? There's no screw holes but apparently you're just meant to kind of glue it. And then, to the side of your house, drill a hole through for the wires. So these wires will be the ones going through the house. They'll be fused, so that way, if anything happens to the solar panel outside, this 30 amp fuse will save it from frying the battery. And then there's going to be another fuse that runs between the positive and the battery here. And then that will be a 100 amp fuse, because the things that I'll run off of this might temporarily take more power. It'll do a spike in power. So yeah. These little guys are what connects the solar panels together. Because I've got 3 solar panels, I ordered one that has a 3-to-1. These lugs are too big, so I might have to borrow somebody's crimper, because the cables that connect the inverter to the battery, these guys are 2-aught or 2 gauge. Forget how it's called. But yeah, these are super duper sized. They don't fit in these, obviously. So this is the proper hole for this size wire, but it needs a much better crimper. Another thing to keep in mind is that these little guys are for a 3/8 inch stud. So even though this guy is little, it's still the same size. So that's the 3/8 inch. You'll also find that there's 5/16 studs, such as this little fella here. You see that he's much bigger than that. So what I'm doing right now, and this guy also is little, 5/16 as opposed to 3/8. So I'm just trying to match up my wires, because I wanted to wait for this guy to come, so that way I could tell if the lugs were small enough for the solar controller to fit on them, and it is, as well as for this big chunky dude to fit on. So I wonder if there's a problem with using too big of a lug on too small of a nut. I gotta go look that up. But anyway, the goal here is to have a sustainable power source that will save me money over the long run, because I'm not buying a new battery every 5 years. That thing lasts 10 to 12 years, maybe even 15 years. So I'll be buying fewer of these things. I'll be able to camp for longer, and I'll be able to use it over the winter, because you don't want to leave this thing in your camper over winter anyway. So I'll be bringing it inside to power my fish tank, but also in a shit hits the fan scenario, I'll have 200 amp hours to run my refrigerators and freezers and daily things, and then I'll be able to charge it using solar if we ever did lose power to the grid. So anyway, this is Ken from Vandewan Gardens with another fun project. I love these things. I guess my next video will be once I get it all working.